Our exclusive conversation with the Sacramento chief of police as the city nears a 15-year homicide high, a program that focuses on showing young people from all backgrounds that the sky is the limit. Staying up high, a one-of-a-kind hot air balloon ride right in our backyard. Let's get to the point.
No community is exempt. It could be at the mall, it could be in Old Sac, it could be in downtown Sac. We have a serious issue with gun violence. We have to just be a lot more diligent on taking off the guns off the streets. Like, how is our young people getting guns before they're getting opportunities?
It's sad because, the city has so much to offer and there's so many positive things happening.
This is not right. And it's so random and it's like, what does life mean to people who would pull out a gun and shoot somebody?
Thank you so much for joining us on this Friday. I'm Alex Bell, and this is To the Point. Sacramento is on track to have more homicide-related deaths than last year. And last week, a man was shot and killed outside of a tennis club. Police say it was a robbery that was gone wrong. And then another man shot and killed at a high school football game. Chris Thomas spoke exclusively with the Sacramento Police Chief, Kathy Lester, as the city weathers yet another wave of violence.
Talk about in the short term, though, when you're dealing with things where you've got folks being shot on Friday Night Football, and you've got a 70-year-old man being shot in East Sac, and you've got 50 homicides, and we're not even done with the year. Right. What are some of the short-term things you want to see happen, or that the public will see happen in response?
First of all, I want people to be held accountable, and I've said that if you're caught carrying a gun in our city and you're not supposed to have it, you should be held accountable, and we should do everything we can, working with our criminal justice partners to hold you accountable. I also think that we need to do everything we can to keep you from getting there in the first place, and that's why we work with our community partners.
You brought up illegal guns. Officers took more than 1,000 illegal guns off the streets, and you've collected more than 400 guns in 2 recent gun buybacks events this year.
Yes.
Putting you on track to surpass last year's total number of seized guns, and yet the gun violence continues. Talk about how frustrating that must be, and do you have a strategy then to say, well, if that didn't work, I'm gonna try this?
I've said it, I'll say it again, that community safety is a shared responsibility, and it takes all of us. It's not just the city, it's not just the community, and it's certainly not just the police department that can do this. So what we've done is we are really working in partnership with groups that we know do great work in the community. That's one of the great things about Sacramento. We have a lot of community-based organizations. They've been here for a long time, they have relationships, and they're proven to do good work.
Talk a bit about staffing, because we know the Sacramento Police Department is authorized for something like 769, but you currently have 684 sworn employees, leaving you about 85 folks short. Is police staffing an issue?
Oh, absolutely. Back in 2008, we used to have 804. So we're at 769. The city has grown. We've seen infill programs. We've seen the building out of Delta Shores, Natomas, all of this great stuff that you want to see in your downtown core. And I'll give you kind of an example, too, of kind of where we were. About 10 years ago, we saw about 10,000 applications a year for the position of police officer. This year, to date, I'm less than 700. So that kind of shows you the decline in
what time frame?
And this is for the whole year.
So what I'm hearing you say is not only do you need more officers, you need more people willing to say, hey, send me, I'm willing to do it.
And we don't just hire anybody just to fill those numbers, And I think that's really important for police agencies because everyone's under pressure to fill their ranks. I certainly would love to say, hey, we're fully staffed, but I can tell you it's absolutely about bringing the right people with the right heart and the right intentions on board to a police department in today's environment.
So you made history. First female police chief in the capital city, sworn in officially back in March.
Yeah.
So at the 6-month mark, how are things going?
If you look at just the city of Sacramento over the last couple of years, we saw, significant increases, about 30% of an increase in our shootings. Our homicide rate has gone up 70% between 2019 and 2021. And those numbers are not acceptable because Really, it's not just a stat that we're talking about. These are real people in our community, people that have families, people that have jobs, people that have a network of others that are affected and traumatized when these things happen. We've had help from the FBI, not just on resources, but with some analysis that has really helped us, because they do it at a really high level and they really help our team of analysts. We were recently, and I'm very proud of this, we applied for the National Public Safety Partnership grant through BJA, which is under the Justice Department. And this grant is only given to a handful of cities every year, and we actually are one of the recipients. There only 6 cities were awarded the program this year, and what that means for us, it's not a monetary grant, but it's 3 years of technical assistance where we have experts come in, take a look at what we are doing, and give us, not only resources, but really take a look at our strategy and help us redesign it, help us make changes if we need to from work that they've done on other cities. And it creates a whole new relationship at the federal level to bring in resources.
Again, that was Chris Thomas in an exclusive interview with the chief. All right, still to come, a Sacramento area program aimed at elevating an entire generation, and how you can get involved after the break. It doesn't matter how old or young you are. We just all reach a point where our bodies are changing. So tonight we are again talking about pelvic floor pain because it often goes overlooked. And I wanted to talk specifically about pelvic floor therapy because this is not a fringe issue. It impacts 1 in 4 women. 1 in 4 women. So in continuing our series tonight, I spoke with Hinge Health. They are a healthcare group that is really focused on offering more access and getting care right into your home.
If you've ever heard these conversations of women talking and saying, oh, I just leaked a little when I ran, laughed, jumped, or sneezed, 1/3 of women have that. That's urinary stress, urinary incontinence, and that's something that can be addressed. If you think about pelvic pain or even pain with intercourse, 20% of women have pain with intercourse. That's a pelvic floor disorder that's worth bringing up to your physician. Pelvic floor disorders occur when the muscles underneath the pelvis are loosened or weakened as a result of injury, trauma, or life stage. We know that on average, it takes women 6.5 years to seek care because, as we mentioned, these conditions have been so normalized. These symptoms range across multiple life stages and fundamentally impact the quality of life. And what we saw is that while this prevalence was so incredibly high, the access to care was incredibly limited. Less than 7% of our PTs in this country are able to serve women with pelvic floor disorders. So it's really, really hard to get care. And what happens during these disorders is people feel multiple different kinds of symptoms, whether it's pelvic pain or organ prolapse, whether it's urge incontinence. Postpartum, it's very common that the abdominal muscles are separated. They've been stretched and you've given birth, and that creates all sorts of pain and dysfunction. And pelvic floor physical therapy does a really good job very quickly to help strengthen those abdominal muscles. So that's what we're doing. We're offering digital physical therapy for women as soon as next day to really address the root causes of these pelvic floor disorders through the app via video visit with your pelvic floor physical therapist. And they will do an assessment around your movement, your breathing, your history through the Hinge Health app. If someone needs in-person care, we can help them navigate through care coordination, someone that they could see. We as Hinge Health are only providing the care virtually. So we see women at all ages impacted by these conditions. So it's not been addressed because there's a lot of stigma. It's really hard to talk about urinary incontinence or painful intercourse. Like, these topics haven't been addressed in the mainstream. That's one side of things. Secondly, is that there hasn't been much research in this area. It's only been less than 30 years, and we've been required to do clinical studies on women. So this area hasn't been focused on effectively. And then at the same time, there is a real lack of access because it's a self-fulfilling prophecy. When we talk to physicians, they say, well, yes, these issues come up, but we have no one to refer to, so then we don't address these issues. And it becomes a cycle of lack of access, stigma, and the issues being unaddressed and unaddressed time and time again. That's what has to stop. In France, postpartum pelvic floor physical therapy is the norm. Every woman gets 10 pelvic floor physical therapist visits covered postpartum. This is the fundamental standard of care. In this country, not the case.
And if you feel like you are having a pelvic floor disorder, make sure that you check with your healthcare provider. All right, coming up after the break, we're going outside. We'll show you the only hot air balloon in the world that takes off and also lands on water. And get this, it's only a short drive away. Stay with us. Keeping history alive and aloft and using it to elevate the next generation. That's the goal of one very determined woman. And she's showing local kids who have the chips stacked against them that the sky is quite literally the limit. Becca Habegger shows us this driven passion project and how you can get involved.
Okay, everyone.
Her name is Joyce Sherman,
This is Becca, and she's from Channel 10.
but here she goes by Miss Joyce.
She'll be doing our interviews today.
She has asked a couple of students to share their story who just went through the youth aviation program in the George S. Spanky Roberts chapter of the Tuskegee Airmen.
It's important to hear from them because they excelled in the program. And by I mean excel, you know what guys excel means? Okay. Over and beyond. Okay.
It gives young people who might not otherwise have the chance to learn about the field of aviation.
We do have flight aviation and we do have drone training. We just want to be able to let students know there's something else out there for them.
There are actually more careers beyond just being a pilot in aviation, like being an engineer, being able to build the tarmacs.
12-year-old Seth Gotti of Rancho Cordova.
I also learned about what goes on behind the scenes, especially with air traffic control.
And 14-year-old Alejandro Spencer of Folsom graduated this fall from the 6-month program.
I feel like this would be a great career path for me to take.
I really learned a lot from this class that would help me maybe in the future as a career for a pilot.
Parents or guardians have to be on board bringing kids to class, and kids need to be committed. But for that, they receive entirely for free an education about aviation and what Joyce hopes is a fast track to a rewarding career.
My husband, Colonel Thomas Sherman, started the program under the George S. Spanky Roberts chapter as the Youth Aviation Director, starting from 2008 because he had a passion for us passing on his knowledge. He was in the Air Force. He was a navigator with the B-52D model. And he says, when I get out, I want to pass it on to the youth.
He was the love of her life for half a century.
He used to be in a wheelchair teaching the students at McClellan. He would ride around with this computer and this clipboard, line them up for the free flights to Folsom and back. He never gave up teaching. As long as he could do it, he did it.
Colonel Thomas Sherman died in 2020 after catching COVID in his care facility.
Because he had such a passion and we worked together when he was alive, I thought, I can't let this program die.
Thank you, Ms. Joyce, for all that you've done.
She wishes her husband could be here to see the sparkle in these boys' eyes as they talk about the program he launched.
Once she said she wants to keep her husband's legacy going, that's what touched me. I said, and that's exactly what I'm gonna help her do.
This youth aviation program has a shot at surviving with passionate pilots like Elijah Patterson. Now 17, he got his license at age 16 with help from the pilot who teaches in Joyce's program.
I'm gonna give back to the community.
He's so inspired by the program, he plans on becoming a volunteer teacher himself, passing on the knowledge and legacy of the Tuskegee Airmen. One of the most highly respected combat units of World War II, the Tuskegee Airmen included the nation's first black military pilots, as well as other aviation-related support staff. Overcoming discrimination and racial segregation, the Tuskegee Airmen proved to the military and the nation that people of color had just as much right and ability to be in the cockpit as their white counterparts.
Once I found out about the Tuskegee Airmen, and going back to that time, it was very hard and that they achieved it, I said, there's no way in the world that I'm gonna think I can't do that, and that's what happened. I went and did it, just like them. So I know if they saw that, they'd be proud. And by me knowing that, I'm glad. That what makes me happy.
Here's where you come in. The Youth Aviation Program is recruiting students for its next free class starting in January and is always looking for pilots to donate their time. Anyone with interest can reach out.
So let's give some underprivileged, underserved youth an opportunity to go into the career field of aviation.
If you want to support in another way, the chapter is holding its big annual luncheon fundraiser on Saturday in Roseville, and tickets are available now.
See you on Saturday. Okay.
I have no doubt those students will all be flying high. And we do have more information about Saturday's fundraiser for this free youth aviation program serving kids aged 13 through 17 from underserved and underrepresented communities. Now, organizers say that even if you can't attend, you are welcome to donate. All you have to do is just head to abc10.com/links. All right, you'll never know what you see on the back roads. You already know it's Friday, and John Bartel takes us on a balloon ride high above Lake Tahoe. But it's one that starts in a very unusual way. Take a look.
In my opinion, there is rarely a bad day at Lake Tahoe. But you know what makes a good day at Tahoe even better? A balloon ride over the clean blue water. There's only one company in the entire world that launches and lands hot air balloons from a boat, and that company is Lake Tahoe Balloons.
It is. It's the world's smallest aircraft carrier. It actually is 120 foot long and 28 feet wide with the arms out.
It's a bit tricky to inflate and fly a balloon from a boat, but balloon pilot Sheldon Gruberger says when you fly from the water, you avoid a number of ballooning challenges that are on the ground.
Unhappy landowners and power lines. And you take out those things when you put it on a boat here.
This one-of-a-kind boat is known as the Tahoe Flyer. Captain Greg Collard says when it was built in 1992, the design had to be approved by 2 different government agencies.
It's actually inspected by the Coast Guard and the FAA because we do have an aircraft on board.
All right, enough talk about this boat. Let's fly. You can really feel that.
You can. It's very, very hot.
It takes a lot of heat to inflate a 110-foot tall balloon and lift 10 to 12 passengers. If I wanted to heat my house, how fast could you do it with that?
So 1,500 square foot house from 40 degrees to 80 degrees in 3 seconds. One burner.
How far are we going to be able to see?
You can see all the way to Yosemite very often and all the way to Mount Lassen on a clear day.
Wind directions change at different heights, so in order to steer, Sheldon raises or lowers the balloon by adding heat or letting it out through a hole at the top of the balloon.
1, 2, 3, throw your popcorn.
And to demonstrate how fast a balloon can move, Sheldon has passengers drop handfuls of popcorn.
And it falls at 800 feet a minute. And then we pass up the popcorn because we're falling faster than the popcorn.
Throughout the 50-minute ride, passengers rise up and fall down several times. At 5,000 feet, you get this unforgettable view of Lake Tahoe. Then on the way down, you get to experience what's called a splash and dash. It's where the bottom of the basket takes a little dip in the water. Have you ever gotten anyone's feet wet?
I have got somebody's ankles wet one time, but never beyond the ankles.
After the basket is done drip drying, it's time to land. Are you catching, or is he landing, or is it both? How do you describe it?
It's a little bit of both, but it's more the boat catching the balloon because the crew actually will pull him down.
Lake Tahoe Balloons claims they make the softest balloon landings in the business. That's because the basket isn't bouncing or crashing down into an open field.
Thanks, Captain.
Now that everyone's back on the boat, the real work begins, putting away the balloon.
Trying to get this thing down. You don't normally do this on land like this.
It takes the entire crew to deflate the balloon and keep it from rolling into the water. The Tahoe Flyer is equipped with a series of extension poles with nets that help guide the balloon fabric into the center.
All right, we got it.
And a balloon trip wouldn't be complete without a celebratory glass of champagne. From the skies of Lake Tahoe, I'm John Bartel. Hope to see you on the back roads.
That looks like some weekend fun. Let's take a look outside at our Gilmore backyard here. Our current temperature is 68 in Sacramento, and Marysville is seeing 67. And here's a quick check of your weekend forecast. Halloween right around the corner. Thanks for joining us here on To The Point. If you missed anything, don't forget you can stream us on ABC 10 Plus, or you can always check out our YouTube page. Hope you have a great weekend. Get some pumpkin pie, steal some candy from the kids. We'll see you on Monday. Hey. Hey, it's Alex. Just wanted to say thank you so much for watching. I really love hearing from everyone, and I hope that you'll stay in touch. Reach out to me on Facebook at AlexBellTV, or you can email me at tothepoint@abc10.com, or you can even send me a text message at 916-321-3310.